Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke and I am so glad you're here. Thank you for participating and viewing these wonderful podcasts and getting to hear my amazing guest. And thank you for spreading the word. Remember, tell people to go to my webpage, drjeffreyburke.com. They can simply click on the Honest Health logo. It'll take them to Spotify if they want to hear the audio. They can also click on my YouTube logo and go right to the YouTube channel and watch the interview. You know, sometimes watching the interaction is just as fun as listening. So both of those are available to you. Something I wanted to talk about today a little bit different. Over the years, my 40 years on the air, I frequently used to call out stores because I think it's important. Because I think health food stores have really built this industry. Although there's big chains and there's things now that we work with that are wonderful, the mom and tops, the bricks and mortar, the small little stores that were around when we were just kind of building the pieces of this industry, a lot of them are still around. And a lot of them are, really foundational for where we are in the industry today. So what I've done is I've decided to pick a store or a chain. It could be a 1-store, 2-store, 10-store, and make them my retailer of the month. So for June 2024, we're going to be interviewing the amazing Bryan. Of course, I've talked about his stores when I just got back. When you take a look at Bryan Bradford's history, you're going to notice that this is a gentleman that understands what the industry is all about. And I got to tell you, I've done trainings at their stores, sunflower shops down in Texas. They have 2 locations. They have one in Colleyville and one in Fort Worth. I've been blessed to go to both stores. I've met their staffs. Their staffs are amazing. They are knowledgeable. They are concerned. They are caring, they are nurturing, and that's what it really takes to be part of this industry. And that's why I have chosen them to be my June 2024 Retailer of the Month. So let's get a little bit of background. Bryan Bradford is a nutritionist, certified health coach, and chief nutrition officer of Sunflower Shop. His family's business, beloved by many throughout the community, was started by his grandmother in 1970. With more than 30 years experience in the nutrition industry, Bryan is interviewed on various television and radio programs and has led various dynamic speaking engagements for corporations and nonprofits throughout Dallas and the Fort Worth area. He has presented at hundreds of health seminars on a variety of health topics at Sunflower Shop. Bryan educates and advises on a myriad of health issues, such as weight control, detoxification, hormone imbalance for both guys and gals. Also, other things that you might want to think about on a regular basis. How about autoimmune diseases, diabetes, hypoglycemia, sleep issues, digestive problems, fatigue, and many more? He hits all the major categories because those are the things that we're thinking about today. Combining education and work experience has enabled Bryan into the extraordinary healing power of the body. Help me welcome my guest today. Hey, Bryan, how are you?
I'm doing good, Dr. Burke. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Awesome. I love your stores, and I really wanted to call you guys out because I think you do a lot for your surrounding areas and the people that actually drive in to see you from outside your areas because they know a good thing when they see it.
That is so true. Being in the industry for over 54 years now, or at least the Sunflower Shop has. I've been doing it for about 30 years, and it's been a joy my whole life, just been teaching people how to heal their bodies, how to move forward, take the necessary steps and to make real changes in their health.
Let me ask you a question. How do you think that the industry has changed since you decided to become a part of it? What you saw at the beginning and where we are now, what's different?
Well, I definitely remember having young memories of crawling around on the shag carpet in my grandmother's first store. I mean, it was the true shag carpet that my dad had to rake every single day before the store opened. And, I know that's a big change. We don't have shag carpet in the stores anymore. That's number
No.
one. And back then in the 70s, it was really considered more kind of voodoo in many ways. Health was. It was still a new and interesting upcoming thing where people were like, I don't know what I need to take this bee pollen or what honey cures everything, aloe vera cures everything. It was just a time that We didn't have the research or backing to it yet, but we had this upcoming industry where people wanted to learn more about how to take care of themselves. And that's what my grandmother saw. She saw that her sister was dying of leukemia. And that's really what got her into the business. She saw what the healthcare was doing to her. And she really was saying, there's got to be another way. And so that's when she hooked up with Adele Davis and many like her that you probably remember Adele Davis, right? It's as
Sure.
far as their information goes. So she just said, hey, there are other ways out there to try to help people heal their health. And that's where it all started for her. But Shag Carpet was the first place to start. And now in today's time, it's totally taken a whole 360. But I'll tell you the biggest change, Dr. Burke, that I've seen him personally. I think, 20 years ago, I know we were the last place that anybody would come for their health. They saw multiple doctors, they saw multiple healthcare experts, but the health food store was the last place they walked into. And now there has been a big shift now where we are the first place that they're entering before they go see their doctors. And so the mindset of what it takes to take care of yourself has really changed.
And to your point, I think that a lot of people did follow that protocol. We were the last resort. We were the place that you went last, the last destination, the last house on the block. And then
Right.
many times they would be like, why didn't I start here? Well,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
right.
just kind of the mentality. A funny side story, when I was just starting out, early 80s, I was in a store in the Westwood area in California, right near UCLA and the UCLA hospital. And it was interesting how many doctors would come to the store after hours to the back door to come in and get their vitamins. It's like doing drug deals. And they would get because they didn't want their colleagues to see them in a health food store. So obviously that mentality has changed a lot. And I also think, to your point, that today we have so many medications and so many categories of medications, and they have their place. There are times when medication may be the only protocol, but there's many times when there's other alternatives available. And I think people have just kind of wrap their mind around this mentality that there's got to be another way, and they might want to try some things on their own first, make those lifestyle changes, exercise, start eating better, maybe take some supplements because they've never taken anything. I mean, they always have the medical side to go to, and I always say, if it's not life threatening and you're not on the edge of the cliff, you might want to make some changes first, because it also might make where you end up at the doctor a little bit easier down the road.
That's very true. And another big to add to what you just said, I think the questioning that people have about their health now is really growing. And what I mean by that is it's the why. Instead of just going in saying, doing your blood work with your doctor and saying, oh, you got high cholesterol, you got high blood pressure, here's your medication.
Mhm.
Now it's starting to change where they're actually asking the doctor, why do I have high cholesterol? Why is my blood pressure high? And so that's where I think the health food stores are really coming into play, in that education about how our bodies work. And that's the beautiful thing I get to witness every day, is that people want that knowledge now. They want to understand, how did I get from point A to point B and need this medication now? And how could I prevent it in the first place?
And when I'm at your stores, and I've been there quite a few times, and when I'm there, when I talk to people on the floor and customers, it is not anything strange for them to say, I've been coming here for 10 years. I've been shopping with them for 20 years, 30 years. My mother, my grandparents used to come here, and it's just become a family kind of, setup for them to just continue to keep coming here. And I said, and I'll usually ask, what is the thing that you like the best? And they'll say, they carry the best of everything. They're knowledgeable. They make us feel like our questions are warranted, and they listen, and they give us suggestions. Although, you're going to make your own mind up, it's nice to have people working with you on an individual basis. And I think that's one thing that we see in health food stores across the country, people able to have that one-on-one. Yes, I know it's good for all of these people, but what can I do for me? And to be able to have that conversation from a caring individual who really wants to help. And I think that's one of the many things that sets your stores apart.
And we get the privilege too that when you go see your doctor now, what do you get, 7 to 15 minutes with them, and that's pretty much max. When you walk
Mhm.
into a health food store, it's as long as it takes to
Mhm.
help really give that knowledge, to give that education. And that's why my staff, it's it's what makes this place Sunflower Shop for sure. You mentioned before, it's the knowledgeable that you got to witness. But when I hire my staff members who have been with us 15, 20 years plus on that side, we never hired on knowledge. We hired on passion. We hired on empathy. We wanted people who could take care of others, who really were passionate to help those people get from step one to step two. And so knowledge is easy to teach. Passion and
Yep.
empathy is not. And so that's why we chose the people we did, and that's why when you come to the store, you saw it yourself. You know,
Yes.
it's gonna be people who really care about trying to get people to the next level.
And it's just such a wonderful camaraderie, between all of the staff as well as the staff and the customers that come in. And they know them. They call each other out on name. And you see a lot of that around the country. People create relationships because this is an important stop in their schedule. Either it's every week or every other week or once a month or every 3 months. They know where they want to go because they know that if other things have come up, questions they've had, they can address those and take care of them at that time. And I think something else that we have to remember is that the world is changing. Things that used to affect only the geriatric community are now affecting people much, much younger. I mean, I remember when I started, I don't think we'd even talked to anyone about taking calcium until they were like over 60. We
Mhm.
never used to talk about heart conditions and cholesterol and even diabetes until people were much, much older. But, that wall came down. We have a
Yeah,
lot of younger people today with those at one time geriatric health conditions. And we're seeing a dramatic change that's out there. So we have to realize that we have to stay on top of the game. And I think that's so important. I know you're big on training and you're big on education because I know personally, every time I think I know it all, I find out that I don't. And I
exactly.
get that that rude awakening, and you're like, you're not even close.
Not even
So,
close.
and I've had to relearn things that I learned years ago because the science now says that it's different than it was what we learned way back then.
That's right. Which is a really good for us. You know, the science
Hmm.
is really starting to prove a lot of things that we did know for sure, and then also disprove what we thought we knew that needs to change. And that's the beauty of our family businesses, that we've always shifted on a dime, be able
Hmm.
to say, okay, we can train immediately on the new subject matter and the new science that's out there. But science gave us validation just to pass this on to the information to the customers and say, hey, this is what the science is showing. Take this to your doctor. You know, let's work together to try to make this work and make it better for your health.
What I noticed about your store is you guys are pretty strict about the lines and the products that you bring in. Products have to be very high quality. They have to use really great raw ingredients. They have to be supported. If they're science based, it's even better. And I think that that's really important because, we saw with like an explosion, like with CBD. When CBD first came out, that was just kind of everybody was doing it, but there were a select amount of people that were doing it right. And I think that's the same thing for probiotics, for, multiple vitamins. Carrying the best is not only the best thing to offer the customers, but if they're using things that don't work, they're not going to stick to it. And we
That's
want
right.
people to see a change. I love nothing better than them coming in and saying, oh my goodness, what a change. I'm so glad that we went that way. Thank you for having that conversation with me. That's to me priceless.
Exactly. We want the customer to come in and be confident that whatever they choose on our shelves is going to work for them and their family.
Hmm.
You know, I don't want to take anything that's going to, hurt my family or my kids and that side.
Hmm.
So, and we know as fast as this market is growing, the health food industry is growing tremendously. And so that's going to bring a lot of bad actors out there too as well, unfortunately, that aren't vetting their products or their sourcing or where the ingredients are coming from. And that's why we trust certain companies to make sure we bring them in the store and vet them heavily on their science, like you said, if they have any on that, or at least the science of the ingredients, the sourcing, their lab analysis, what they say are putting in that product. We got to make sure it's in there. And that's what we do with every single product that comes in.
Well, I also want to stress that although you have this absolutely nutritional supplementation, area in your store, you're a health food store too. And there's been a lot of changes on that side too. I mean, I remember way back when there was like three different kinds of really healthy natural potato chips. Now there's like 300. How
Easily.
hard is the process of deciding to bring something in on the food side?
Yeah, the food size just as big, really. I mean, with all the ingredients, especially with everybody's sensitivities and allergies they have out
True,
there, you got to find things that are as clean as possible. And what's clean for you doesn't mean it's clean for the next person. So
true.
there's always that balance that you must achieve in the stores. But the good part is, gosh, it wasn't what 15, 20 years ago when most of our good health food ingredients or groceries had to be imported. We didn't make much here that was really healthy for you in many ways. So we had to import from Canada, from France to get gluten free and some of these things that were hypoallergenic for our autistic community that we serve. And so it was a very big a challenge. But now it's blown up in America, which is great. Everybody's looking for the best ingredients or the cleanest part that's going to help their bodies out. So we have to vet them just as much as we do the supplement side.
Thing I love about it is you can be a one-stop place where people come in and do their shopping for their foods. While they're there, they can go over and ask questions, because sometimes the questions between the foods they're using and the supplements they're using, it is a pertinent question that needs to be asked. And, I'm following this, gluten-free diet, but I also want to make sure that my supplements go in and keep me on my protocol. So it's really nice that people can actually do this all in one place and have the people to talk to that know their categories.
That's right. And we're only about 8,000 square feet at both our locations. So, but we jokingly always said that we're the 7-Eleven of Whole Foods. We're sort of that one-stop stop real fast to get a little bit of everything, all your necessities, but we specialize in nutrition, health, and education. To me, that's where it's at.
So let me ask you a question. What are things that you look for in a new line coming into your store? So it's a brand new nutritional supplement line. There's a lot of varieties of a lot of different things that are out there now. What is it that you look for when someone is coming in and saying, I want to show you these wonderful new products that are out? What are you looking for?
Oh, that's a big question. We're looking for a lot of things. It depends on what the consumer's looking for, what the fads are at that time, and really more importantly, what the science is showing. Because when certain science comes out, now a lot of manufacturers jump on board to say, hey, we can make this product. So the first thing that we're always requesting is laboratory analysis on their product to show what they're putting in it is true, and then making sure they got any science backing that they can. But we want cleanliness. We want people who, like you said, who's working on the science to back up what they're saying and what their products can do for each other. We want good representation of it as much as we can because we want them to be able to help out in educating the consumers with us. Like today's podcast, I have a lot of those vendors on my podcast for the same reason, trying to promote that, hey, these people are doing something unique. They're doing something really good and it's healthy for your body. Take a look at them. So there's a lot of processes that go through that, when in the vetting process for sure.
You just mentioned it. It was on my list to ask you anyway. So how do people find your podcast, Bryan?
Well, I'm the Healthy Approach podcast. I'm on pretty much all the platforms too, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Um, I'm I'm still fairly new, still building my podcast up, but right now I am doing much more on the vendor side, and I'm fixing to launch a podcast with my daughter, who's fourth generation coming into the store, and we're
Mhm.
fixing to do a father-daughter type podcast where she sort of asks dad questions, and really go on. So we're really excited about it. Get started with that one.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And the name of the podcast again?
The Healthy Approach podcast.
Okay, perfect. I want to make sure that everybody gets that and makes a note to that so they can go
Appreciate
there.
it.
Because, today podcasts are great. What I learned after 4 decades of radio, terrestrial radio, is that it did tie people down to be at a certain place or a certain time in front of a radio, listening to them at the time it was on. And they were always like, oh, I missed your show. I missed your show. What'd you talk about? And although it's taken me a while to totally embrace new technology, I understand why it's important today because everybody's schedules are crazy. We're busy. We're juggling 10 plates in the air. And it's like, you know what? I want to listen to this now. I'm on the treadmill or I'm working around the house. I can listen to the things that I want to listen to. I've really embraced it. It's pretty new for me, just launching recently, but, taking all of this knowledge that I've had and just putting it on a different platform, it just makes sense to me.
It really does. That's why I think we were sort of talking about that before the show about how technology is just making it so much easier for us to get information out and reach so many people who would have never heard this before or, isn't close by one of our stores or locations. We're now able to reach around across America. Of course, being a nutritionist, I do have a private practice as well too. So, I'm talking to people all over the country, which has been a blessing over the last 30 years now because a lot of people have moved away and networked off of that. So reaching out to as many people as we can to spread the word that, hey, there are other ways of doing something for your health. And that's what we love teaching.
So let's talk a little bit about the breakdown of your demographics. Who do you see the most in your store, or is it across a lot of different demographics?
I'm going to say, definitely the baby boomer generation was our biggest clientele, and that's definitely shifting now as the younger kids are, had this information at their fingertips. They're starting to become more inquisitive and coming into the store and asking questions. So we're definitely seeing the young groups, but I would say 40 plus is definitely our clientele, where it used to be, like you said, more the elderly generation or the geriatric side that we were really catering towards. That's changing, because knowledge is getting so much easier to get these days, which makes it so easy.
Are you seeing more of the medical community now working a little bit more hand in hand with us, because I am, even as I travel, I'll see people that'll come into a store and they'll have a handwritten prescription for something like vitamin D or omega-3s or probiotics or something coming from their doctor. And I mean, I'm always happy to see that, because there's no reason we shouldn't all be working together, because we don't all fit in the same box, and we need to throw that box away, because we're all different, and what works for this person may not work for you. So sometimes working hand in hand, people may find better results on the natural side, and then there's people that have to respond to a prescription medication.
Of course.
What are you seeing?
We're definitely seeing people coming in with notes written by their doctors, get on the vitamin D, get on the zinc, whatever it might be. But more importantly, I mean, as a nutritionist and having the reputation that Sunflower's had for over 50 years, we network with a lot of doctors around our stores. That was one of my big outreach programs when I started 20 years ago, and really trying to reach out to these doctors and say, hey, I'm not against you. I want to help you with your client and work in the other angles that got them to why they're in your office in the first place. I have a 3-page list of all kinds of doctors, that we're able to send people in reference to, because they trust us to send clients to us. We're doing the same for them. And so it's really opening their eyes. And what's even better is, like I said earlier in our conversation, we had these clients who are questioning the doctors about their nutrients now. The doctors are having to do intakes on what supplements people are taking. So they're being kind of forced to learn a little bit about nutrition. And that's a good thing, in many ways, because let's say if the doctor doesn't know there's another alternative out there to the medication, then how are they going to know? They don't have time to go out there and do their own research. So the customers are sort of aiding us in the same way, and helping us grow and network with all kinds of doctors across the board. We still got a lot of old school doctors out there who are definitely against it. There'll always be out there, but it's changed so much in the mindset that we understand that health and nutrition, really prevention medicine, preventative, that's what we really need to be doing more of. And so try to avoid those diseases in the first place.
Well, I'm always, I try to say I'm always surprised, but I'm not. When somebody finds out they're 50, 60 years old and they've never really done anything for themselves, and they go to the doctor and they find out that they're really, really sick in a lot of different categories. And I'm like, were you not listening along the way? I mean, didn't you feel a little bit different? Wasn't there like something that you were noticing? Oh, I just thought I was stressed or tired, or, so if I could make any wish for anyone or put something in the water supply, it would be to have self-awareness at a much younger age, because there's nothing wrong with doing a little bit of, preventative work, a little bit of, ahead of the game, taking some things that might make our golden years a little bit more golden, if you will. But I mean, I see people that are just getting started today. Now, it's never too late to be better than you are, but I think we'd be even better if we started a little bit earlier.
I totally agree. It's never too late, because I'm tired of hearing people say, I'm just getting older. It's why my joints hurt more, or why I have more constipation, or my memory's going. They blame it on the age, or getting older, and that's not always necessarily true. And so it is never too late to start. And no matter, but we want to start the kids younger and younger as much as possible. One of the biggest challenges I've had is trying to get into the school system. Trying to get in and teach kids in the nutrition classes, which I'm successful with some of the schools in our area, but it's still a challenge, because you're finding other groups that really don't want the nutritional side in there, whether it's big corporations like Coca-Cola or whoever's running the cafeterias at the time. But we're trying to make those real changes and trying to get to the kids earlier to say, hey, there are some simple things you can do. It doesn't have to be expensive and buying all organic, but there are a lot of preventative steps that you can take for both you and your kids. And we're trying to get that awareness out there.
I've noticed that there's some big categories out there, that even more categories of focus today. Of course, joints and muscles and sleep and, all different kinds of things, men's health, women's health, hormonal health. But, a category I'm seeing that is, and I'm trying to point the blame to like the pandemic and the quarantine and all that kind of stuff, is our mental and our emotional health. I have seen a huge decline. And personally, people that I know and love and respect, who I always thought, were on course, nothing would bother them. I've noticed that even people in that group, in that category, have experienced a lot of, just unhealthy thought process and emotional health. And just, I've seen a dramatic change. Have you seen more of this too?
Without a doubt, Dr. Burke. I mean, look what COVID did. We know we got confined to our houses. The average weight gain was 20, 30 pounds for a lot of people. What do you think that extra weight's going to do to their health in general?
Mhm.
Cause more gut inflammation, which now leads to more brain inflammation, which can alter the way they feel. So yes, we're seeing this domino effect of a lot of different, what we're calling neurological issues today, that
Mhm.
are coming in, and that's changing their emotional states. And I do blame COVID for that too in many cases, not to mention our kids. I
Yeah.
mean, some of those latest stats I can't cite off the top of my head right now, but on the suicide rates with the kids from COVID, it was incredible. So we know the mental state is a big challenge, and I think anything mind related or emotional related or neurological is going to be the big subject matters for the next couple of years for sure.
I see a lot of people that work in the medical field. I work with a lot of nurses and I work with a lot of doctors as well. And it's amazing how many of them themselves now come into the stores
Yeah.
and now are
Yes.
working on their own health and well-being because they have realized that if I'm not at my best, I can't do what I do and I'm going to
Yes.
crash and burn.
Yes.
So it's amazing how many of them have kind of signed on to making better life choices and realizing that the cup is barely half full, that we have to take the job to fill it.
I've seen a lot of booms in our industry over the last 30 years, and I think we're in for another big one, and that is the awakening and awareness of health out there. Because information's at your fingertips, COVID really put a drive to a lot of people to learn how to protect their own health. So we're seeing a lot of these variables really set the stage for health food stores like ours and even chains, to really get bigger because people want that information on how to keep me out of the doctor's office. And that's what we're trying to do.
Do you see a lot of people coming in today? Because this is another category, and you and I were talking about this previously. Pet health. Do you see? Is that a category that you're seeing a lot more in your store? And I know, I prioritize my pets. Those are my kids, and I have a lot of them,
Yes, you
and
do.
so I prioritize them as well. But I see a lot of people that are looking for nutrition to keep our animals with us healthier and longer.
Mhm. Without a doubt. Pet health, I mean, we had just reset a whole end cap geared towards pets here
There we
just
go.
last week. So it's definitely out there. People want to know more about not just protecting their families now, but including their pets, which are family. So yes, that's a big category that's up and coming because there's a lot better things we can do for even our pets to keep them out of the vet's office, or at least, maintain them much more efficiently than what some of the medications can do out there.
Well, and the same thing in their category is the same thing that's in our category. Their food pyramid that's available is
It's
pretty
terrible.
bad. And you really have to go outside of the traditional food pyramid. That goes for us as well.
That's right.
Whatever kind of program you're eating, you have to really kind of work that program because if you follow traditional, society and food pyramid values, you're going to be eating a lot of garbage. So you have to step outside, and outside is a little bit uncomfortable. It's a little bit of a different way of looking at things, but I think once we feel the difference and see the difference, and of course we're all extremely impatient, and we want everything to be fixed by tomorrow because that's just who we are and the magic wand. I think once you see a difference, but the same thing with pets, there is no placebo with our animals. You give them something different, you give them nutrition, they act better because they are better. And we have to take note to that too.
Yes, without a doubt. My dog has a heart murmur, congestive heart failure type issues. We started changing the food, giving him some hemp supplements, a lot of great nutrition that we started feeding him, and now he's like a puppy again. You're right. There's no placebo. You see the difference with your pets just as well as you can yourself. So I believe in, yeah, giving the right nutrients to your dogs or cats or whatever animal that you're servicing at the time is so important just as much as it is for your family.
Do you have a lot of people coming in and addressing digestive health? And the reason I ask that is because there was a time when the old adage was what you are what you eat. And then today, of course, it's a little bit different. It's you are what you absorb. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
people out there walking around with digestive systems that don't do the job. So they may even start a healthy way of doing everything, but the body itself is not prepared or capable to be able to get the most out of it. So they may not see results as quickly. And I think that it's important to address, digestive health. You may need probiotics and enzymes to make things work better. Is that a category that you focus on as well?
I think it's the biggest category we focus on without a
There we
doubt.
go.
And because, I mean, oh, where to start? I think just recently I was looking at the stats of the top 10 medications on the market right now, and three of them are antacids. So it sort of tells you that we have a digestion problem in America,
Mhm.
or gut problems that are going on, not to mention the growing autoimmune issues and IBS, constipation. the list goes on and on. But we got to teach people how to get their GI back together, because like you said, it's about what we absorb, not just what we eat. And that's so important. And that means the digestive enzymes and the probiotics, which are two different things. A lot of people sort of get those confused sometimes, thinking that they're one and the same. But digestive enzymes and probiotics are definitely some of the best things you can do. In fact, I actually put digestive enzymes way above multivitamins. If you're going to have to choose between financially, digestive enzymes win every time. That's how important it is.
And I think I agree 100%, because if you're going through the motions, even if you haven't changed your diet, there are still nutrients in that diet that would be beneficial, that you could get benefit from if your gut was working. I said this just a couple of weeks ago to a friend of mine. He said, how do you order your supplements? And I said, number 1 is a digestive enzyme. Number 2 is a probiotic. Number 3 is a multiple vitamin. And then from there on in, things like vitamin D and minerals and magnesium and greens. But I start out there because I don't think, if our systems are not capable and they don't have the ability to be able to do what we want them to do, nothing you do is going to make a difference. I 100% agree, Bryan.
I totally agree. Digestion is actually what got me into the health food industry. I did not plan to follow my father's footsteps in this industry. I had no intention of it. I wanted to go to the FBI and Secret Service and law enforcement. I went through the police academy. I was thinking I was going a totally different route, but God had his changing heart and plans for me. And basically now I get to investigate the body instead of investigate criminals. But digestion and all that stress I had after I got out of the military, I started with GERD, that gastroesophageal reflux disease. And that really woke me up going, what is going on and what do I need to do to fix it? And that was some of the first research I dove into, is how do you fix the GI? And so it's a beautiful thing once you understand that. And that's why we love teaching it and trying to get people to say, hey, take your digestive enzymes, take your probiotics, and anything else we need to do to improve gut health.
I really appreciate this today. This has been so much fun. And I'm so glad to be able to recognize the Sunflower Shops as June 2024, my recommended retailer of the month. I think you guys do so much for the community. And if you live in that area or you're driving through the area, you got to stop in. They're just amazing people to work with. And I'll tell you what, you'll always walk out with more information than you went in with. And the information that you leave with will always be constructive for your good health. So one thing before we go, Bryan, if you could leave everybody today with just a thought for the day, what would it be?
Oh, man, so many thoughts. Which one to choose is the real question, right? I always give the definition of my definition of what good health looks like. And for me, it's about doing more good than bad. It's not about being perfect. It's about just trying to do more good things. Because if you think about it, every decision you make on your everyday life is either a decision for health or it's a decision for disease. And so if you just sort of think about that, the things you're doing through your daytime, what are you really choosing? Are you choosing health or are you choosing disease in your process of thinking? That would be my thought I would want people to go home with today.
I love it. Priceless. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. The Honest Health Podcast with myself, Dr. Jeffrey Burke. Please go to my webpage, drjeffreyburke.com. If you're sending friends there, it's the easiest place to go. It's a one-stop shop, if you will. They can click on the Honest Health logo and take them to Spotify to hear the audio. They can also click on the YouTube logo to go to YouTube to watch the interview. I thank you so much. This is all new to me, so if it says click it, subscribe, like it, do it all. Click all the buttons. I'm not. Do them all. And of course, my thanks to my guest Bryan Bradford here with Sunflower Shops. Remember, if you're in Texas, you got to stop and see these because they are my very first on my new podcast, Retailer of the Month for June 2024. Bryan, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm honored, Dr. Burke. Thanks for having me on.
Have a wonderful day.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.